Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal Nancy Lee Grahn, the veteran actress who has embodied Alexis Davis on General Hospital for decades, has suddenly found herself in the eye of a storm after a single post on Instagram that shocked fans, colleagues, and the broader public alike. In the aftermath of the tragic assassination of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, Grahn took to her social media platform and wrote the words that would ignite outrage: "I am not in support of what happened to Charlie Kirk. But Charlie Kirk was in support of what happened to Charlie Kirk." At first glance, the message seemed like a contradiction, claiming not to endorse the violence while simultaneously suggesting that Kirk's own beliefs and advocacy were responsible for the violent end of his life. The phrasing was stark, cold, and cutting, and many readers understood it as an accusation that Kirk's death was, in essence, self-inflicted through his politics. The reaction was immediate and fierce. Fans of General Hospital flooded her page with comments of disbelief and anger. For many, it was not about political differences, but about what they saw as the lack of basic compassion in the wake of a murder. One fan wrote that Nancy's words made it sound as though Kirk deserved to die, while others went so far as to call for her to be fired from the long-running soap opera. The criticism rippled across Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, magnified by the fact that Grahn is no stranger to speaking out on politics from a liberal perspective. Yet this time had crossed what many considered a line of decency. The controversy quickly drew in her former co-star, Ingo Rademacher, once beloved as Jasper Jax. Rademacher, who has often been candid about his own conservative leanings, entered the fray with a measured plea. Commenting directly on Grahn's post, he wrote, "My dear old friend Nancy, please don't block me. But I think you should take down this post." He continued, "I don't want to see you get fired." There's a difference between a political post and something as distasteful as the above comment. Charlie was a husband and a father, and his daughter will never see her father again. She is 3. His words captured what so many were feeling, that beyond politics, a family was grieving, and a little girl would grow up without her father. Other voices rose as well. Actress Carolyn Hennessy, another General Hospital alum, stepped forward to defend Grahn, insisting that her colleague had the right to express political opinions even if they provoked anger. Hennessy argued that suppressing such speech was dangerous, and that Nancy should not be silenced for articulating her perspective. Yet even her defense highlighted the divide among colleagues, with some urging caution and empathy, while others stressed freedom of expression above all. The timing of Grahn's post made it all the more incendiary. Just days earlier, Charlie Kirk had stood on a stage at Utah Valley University, addressing a crowd of thousands in what was meant to be the first stop of his America's Comeback tour. He was a polarizing figure, celebrated as a hero by conservatives, denounced as a provocateur by progressives, but he was also a 31-year-old husband and father of 2 small children. When gunfire rang out during his event and Kirk collapsed, chaos erupted. Within hours, news of his death traveled across the nation, sparking sorrow in some quarters and tense debate in others. The suspect, Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old, was quickly apprehended, but the shockwaves continued to ripple through political and cultural life. Against that background, Nancy Lee Grahn's words cut with the sharpness of a blade. To her critics, the post seemed less like political commentary and more like a condemnation of a dead man. They interpreted it as an attempt to link his murder directly to his values, to his support of the Second Amendment, and to the confrontational way he had built his career. In their eyes, this was not simply commentary, it was a curse, a denial of sympathy, and a violation of the unwritten rule that death, no matter the politics of the deceased, deserves a pause of compassion. Inside the entertainment industry, the fallout has been tense. Those who know the mechanics of daytime television understand that stars are often as much ambassadors of the network as they are actors on screen. A statement that provokes massive outrage can threaten the show's reputation, alienate viewers, and spark calls for boycotts. That is why Rademacher's plea was not only emotional but pragmatic. "I don't want to see you get fired." His words reflect the real risk that Grahn now faces. For even long careers and iconic roles can be imperiled in a heartbeat when controversy becomes too toxic. Grahn herself has not backed down or clarified beyond her original words, leaving fans and the public to debate her intentions. Was she trying to highlight the irony of a gun rights advocate falling victim to gun violence? Was it a critique of systemic political contradictions? Or was it, as so many believe, simply a moment of insensitivity dressed up as cleverness. Whatever her intent, the interpretation that has taken hold is that she lacked compassion at a time when compassion was most needed. The broader context cannot be ignored. In Hollywood, the collision between celebrity opinion and public outrage is a recurring story. Some actors have been blacklisted or sidelined after controversial remarks, while others have weathered the storm and even emerged with stronger support from a loyal base. The question for Nancy Lee Grahn is which path she will travel. Will she apologize and attempt to repair her relationship with fans, or will she stand firm and risk further alienating those who once admired her? In the end, her words, "I am not in support of what happened to Charlie Kirk, but Charlie Kirk was in support of what happened to Charlie Kirk," will linger as a flashpoint in her career. They will be remembered alongside the voices of her colleagues, Ingo Rademacher pleading for humanity and caution, Carolyn Hennessy defending her right to speak, and countless fans expressing anger, sorrow, and disappointment. Whether this moment defines Nancy Lee Grahn permanently, or fades as just another chapter in the volatile dance between celebrity and politics, depends on what she chooses to do next. Nancy Lee Grahn's decision to make a public statement at the very moment when Charlie Kirk's family was still reeling from grief has become one of the most defining controversies of her career. For many observers, the insensitivity was not only in what she said but in when she chose to say it. Families of victims often look to the wider community for compassion, silence, or at least respect in the immediate aftermath of tragedy. Instead, Grahn's words came across as sharp, dismissive, and even punitive, creating the impression that she was minimizing the human loss at the center of the event. This is why so many felt her post crossed a line that most public figures, no matter how opinionated, instinctively avoid. For years, Nancy had cultivated a reputation as a bold and outspoken actress, one who did not shy away from political discourse. Her role as Alexis Davis was marked by emotional depth, resilience, and moral complexity, and fans admired her ability to embody nuance on screen. Yet the Instagram post shattered that association. Instead of the empathy and subtlety that defined her performances, what audiences saw was a stark message that lacked warmth or understanding. In doing so, Nancy inadvertently recast her own image, not as the actress of layered humanity, but as a public figure associated with cold detachment. The backlash has already gone far beyond online criticism. In today's entertainment industry, a social media controversy rarely remains confined to digital platforms. Executives, producers, and publicists monitor public perception closely, knowing that one actor's words can affect the entire brand of a long-running show. General Hospital is a soap opera built on legacy and viewer loyalty. Networks rely on audiences who have watched for decades. When that audience feels alienated, calls for boycotts or cast changes can no longer be dismissed as idle threats. In this sense, Nancy's post has placed not only her own career in jeopardy but also the stability of the show she has represented for so long. This episode highlights the fragile balance between personal freedom and professional responsibility in the era of social media. Each word typed by a public figure carries disproportionate weight, instantly magnified by algorithms and headlines. What begins as an individual opinion can, within hours, ignite into a cultural firestorm that reshapes careers and reputations. For Nancy, her blunt words have become a case study in how quickly a statement can spiral into a defining moment, overshadowing decades of work and accomplishments. There is also a broader lesson embedded in this scandal. The difference between frankness and cruelty is razor thin, and public figures must walk that line with care. To some, Nancy's comment was a cutting observation about political irony. To many others, it was an act of callousness toward a grieving family. The distinction may matter to her defenders, but in the court of public opinion, what matters most is perception. And perception has turned decisively against her, painting her as emblematic of how compassion can be lost in the heat of political discourse. In Hollywood, this kind of fallout is not unprecedented. Other actors and public figures have seen their careers stumble after incendiary remarks about tragedies. Some never recovered, fading from the spotlight as public trust eroded. Others managed to rebuild either by issuing sincere apologies, clarifying their intent, or waiting for the fury to subside. Nancy now faces the same crossroads. Does she acknowledge fault and ask for forgiveness, risking accusations of backtracking? Or does she stand firm, cementing her reputation as uncompromising, but perhaps sacrificing mainstream support in the process? The stakes are high. Fan reactions, industry responses, and media coverage suggest that this will not blow over quickly. Instead, it may mark a turning point in how Nancy Lee Grahn is remembered, not simply as Alexis Davis of General Hospital, but as the actress whose words about a political assassination came to define her public image. In a world where celebrity and politics intertwine more tightly every year, her situation is a cautionary tale for all public figures navigating the fine line between expression and empathy. The most immediate consequence of Nancy Lee Grahn's controversial post is the erosion of her personal image. For years she has been a cornerstone of General Hospital, her portrayal of Alexis Davis beloved by a large and loyal fan base. Yet one short statement on Instagram has unsettled that very foundation. Fans who once supported her, especially those politically aligned with Charlie Kirk, now feel alienated and betrayed. In the entertainment industry, fan loyalty is not just a measure of popularity, it is the currency of survival. When that trust is damaged, the ripple effect can last for years, compromising not only the security of a current role but also the prospects for new opportunities and collaborations. The second impact is professional and internal. Acting is inherently collaborative, and no star stands alone. Nancy depends on a network of writers, producers, directors, co-stars, and the broadcasting network itself. Each of these stakeholders has a vested interest in preserving the credibility of the show. When her words sparked outrage, the burden shifted onto the production team, who must weigh the value of keeping a veteran actress against the risk of alienating viewers and damaging the reputation of the program. In a business where brand integrity and economic viability drive decisions, such controversies rarely end favorably for the actor, regardless of their past contributions. Even colleagues who care about her well-being, like Ingo Rademacher, warned her publicly, "I don't want to see you get fired." There's a difference between a political post and something as distasteful as this comment. His appeal underscored both the professional stakes and the potential for real consequences. Hollywood history provides clear precedent. Many stars have stumbled after public comments on sensitive political or social issues. In some cases, backlash led to boycotts, the loss of endorsement deals, or even being written out of projects. Others found themselves defended by like-minded communities, their careers shifting into more partisan but still viable trajectories. What unites these cases, however, is the polarization of public image. Rarely does a celebrity survive such storms without being marked, transformed into a figure strongly associated with one ideological camp. This is the crossroads now facing Nancy Lee Grahn. She must either accept becoming a polarizing figure who embodies a particular worldview or attempt to repair her standing by softening her message, clarifying her intent, or apologizing outright. Her situation is emblematic of the volatile environment in which modern celebrities operate. In the age of social media, a single sentence can cascade into a career-altering scandal. For Nancy, the decision is not just about her own voice, it is about whether her words, once typed and shared, will define her legacy more than decades of acting ever did. The incident surrounding Nancy Lee Grahn's controversial Instagram post also illustrates, with unusual clarity, the immense risks that social media carries in the digital age. Each line typed into a status box can become explosive once it enters the online ecosystem. A message intended for a specific group of followers can instantly escape its original context, circulating at extraordinary speed, amplified by news outlets, political commentators, and rival fan bases. In Grahn's case, what may have been conceived as a personal remark to a familiar audience became front-page controversy, scrutinized not just by General Hospital fans but by the wider public across political and cultural divides. The velocity of this spread was magnified by the gravity of the event she commented on. Charlie Kirk's assassination was not a minor or isolated episode. It was a shocking act of political violence that immediately dominated headlines. Every sentence written about it was bound to be dissected for hidden meanings, implicit biases, or political affiliations. Thus, Grahn's phrase "Charlie Kirk was in support of what happened to Charlie Kirk" was pulled apart, analyzed word by word, and framed within the larger context of America's cultural and ideological wars. In such an environment, Her words were never going to be read in isolation. They were destined to be weaponized as evidence of heartlessness by critics and defended as fearless honesty by a smaller set of supporters. The long-term consequences for Grahn hinge on how she chooses to navigate the aftermath. On one hand, a public apology could soften the anger, signaling to viewers and colleagues that she understands the pain her words caused, even if she maintains her political beliefs. Such an act of contrition might help her preserve her position on General Hospital, where fan loyalty and network image matter deeply. Yet an apology also carries risks. Some of her political allies, who admired her for her bluntness, might interpret backtracking as weakness or betrayal, diminishing the credibility she has built among those who champion her as a truth-teller. On the other hand, if she doubles down and refuses to retract her statement, she solidifies her brand as uncompromising, but at the cost of alienating a broad audience and possibly jeopardizing her standing within an industry that often depends on diplomacy and broad appeal. To stand firm is to accept polarization as her new reality, a future where her career is defined by political identity as much as artistic talent. This strategy has worked for some public figures who reinvented themselves as cultural commentators rather than mainstream actors. But it almost always means losing opportunities in traditional Hollywood spaces. For Nancy Lee Grahn, there is no simple resolution. The dilemma she faces is one that has become increasingly common for artists in the era of social media: how to balance the right to personal expression with the responsibility of public empathy. The harsh truth is that there is no path forward without cost. Whether she apologizes or holds her ground, the controversy has already rewritten part of her legacy, ensuring that her name will forever be linked not only with Alexis Davis and General Hospital, but also with the fierce debate about what celebrities should or should not say in the face of tragedy. Nancy Lee Grahn's story is more than a clash between an actress and her critics. It is a reflection of a larger reality in today's world, where cultural polarization and the rise of cancel culture have transformed every public statement into a potential spark for outrage. What might once have passed as a pointed but quickly forgotten remark now becomes a catalyst for sweeping debates, amplified by the speed of social media and the heightened sensitivity of audiences who are primed to interpret words through the lens of political and cultural divides. In this environment, the balance between free expression and public responsibility has never been more fragile. On the one hand, celebrities like Nancy feel entitled, even obligated, to speak their truth, especially when it intersects with deeply held political convictions. On the other, every word is now burdened with consequences that extend far beyond the individual. A post on Instagram is not just Nancy Lee Grahn's voice, it becomes a test of loyalty for fans, a headache for producers, a liability for networks, and even a source of division among her colleagues. What she intended as a critique has instead transformed into a symbol of how words can wound not only strangers, but also the institutions and communities that surround an artist. The fallout underscores an uncomfortable truth in the entertainment industry. Artistic talent is only one part of what builds a lasting career. Equally important is the ability to navigate the treacherous waters of public opinion with diplomacy, restraint, and foresight. Actors are not judged solely on their performances but also on how they carry themselves in public, what they say on sensitive issues, and whether they demonstrate empathy in moments of collective grief. In a culture where reputations are scrutinized and dissected in real time, one misjudged sentence can undo decades of hard-earned respect. This is the danger Nancy faces now. Her decades of work on General Hospital, her complex portrayal of Alexis Davis, her reputation as a seasoned professional, her connection to generations of viewers are all at risk of being overshadowed by a single social media post. The risk is not hypothetical. It is already happening, as fans, colleagues, and critics alike discuss her comments more than her craft. If she cannot find a way to step beyond this controversy, her name may forever be linked less to her artistry than to her words about Charlie Kirk. Ultimately, this episode serves as a sobering reminder for all public figures. Fame in the 21st century is not just about acting, singing, or creating. It is about managing one's voice in a digital arena where there are no second drafts. Nancy Lee Grahn's experience demonstrates how quickly admiration can turn to outrage, how loyalty can fray, and how the burden of responsibility weighs on anyone whose words are amplified by fame. A moment's lapse in judgment can dismantle years of goodwill, And once those words are out in the world, there is no taking them back. For Nancy, the challenge now is to decide whether she will fight to rebuild what has been damaged or allow this one controversy to define her legacy.